Hello, everybody. This is Joe Boston with Dallas REIG and Real Estate for Life podcast. I want to talk to you today about not waiting to get involved in real estate. I can't tell you how much real estate has impacted my life. And a lot of people think I just started here, but no, that's not the case. I was in corporate and in the military. And what's interesting is when I look back at my financial situation in my previous life, I would say that my bank account wasn't where I wanted it to be. It was just something that I did because everybody else did it. And it was just kind of what you were supposed to do. I never really was taught or told that if you make investments of a substantial amount, then your return will be a substantial amount and you'll be able to actually have more in your account. I wish someone would have sat down with me in my early 20s, especially then with the price points. But, I want to talk to you a little bit about that because I think people need to hear how you can change your life and the stress in your life and your financial situation if you just invest in things that are bigger than you might have expected that you ever would get involved in. So let me start with just the psychological factor. For most people, you think about purchasing and acquiring a house to live in, and that's not a problem. That's just the normal way and progression of the American dream. But that same stigma is held when you buy a investment property. A lot of people don't understand how to structure an investment property. So, there's a lot of fear. And a lot of times people will talk about fear. But if you really understand how you can leverage, uh, you know, financial investments, money, projects, properties, commercial properties, businesses, once you start to, get involved in that and get educated, you realize that your job, and if you do have a 9 to 5, is really just a security for your investments. And so if you continue to just work without investing, like they always say, money's like water, it always finds its level. So no matter how much money you make, that's how much you spend, right? Make more money, buy a bigger house, buy a better car, but your expenses are more. So let's take a step through what I have on the slide here, just to talk about some of the things that are on my mind. So again, don't sit on the sidelines. You buy and acquire because waiting gives away of the appreciation factor. So one of the things that I'll kind of share with you is that I really got ramped up in 2008, 9, and 10. And that's when I started the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group in 2010. And I want to be able to make sure that you all can see that. Definitely want you to register at dallasreig.com so you can see our events and our resources. But one of the things that I want to emphasize is that I started to ramp up. And one of the reasons why is because I really believed in that when you acquire something that everybody has to have, you'll be successful. So the thing is, though, is when I was purchasing, those properties were, I would say, anywhere from on the high side, 85,000 to the low side, 50,000. So in 2008, 9, and 10, in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, that is, and actually that's not even true. In the Seattle, Tacoma area where I'm from, properties were a lot cheaper, right? So, but if you fast forward to today, those same properties are 250,000. In the Seattle area, you could have bought for 100,000, 150,000. Those are 400,000 and higher. But you see, if you would have invested then, and you would have gotten involved in, an exit strategy, whether it be rentals, being a landlord, doing owner finance, or just flipping, your bank account would have looked a lot different. So you'll see that the number one bullet I have there is 65% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So I don't know if that's you, but if it is, that means you're not looking at the financial institutions or the ability to leverage and use debt appropriately. You're using your day in and day out paycheck for your survival. But if you use real estate, you can see and you leverage. If you would have just purchased one property when I did, and it was 65,000, let's say in 2010, that would have been 13 years ago. You could sell that same house for $200,000 today, easily. And I'm just being conservative. That means when you back out expenses, that, and then also let's say that, 13 years off your note, let's say that you owe 50,000 left, even though I think you'd be lower than that. That means there's 150,000 minus your expenses to sell it. And let's say that's 20,000. So that's $130,000 that now can go towards another property, or you can take the capital gains hit, and let's say 100,000 of that, those proceeds go into your bank account. So now you see really quickly that I think 11% of the U.S. population has 100,000 or more. So let's say 10%, and that's it. So immediately you go into the 10% category. And if you see, if you just because you didn't win on Sidelines, and that's with one property. So you don't want to sit on the sidelines. And we're getting ready to go through that again. I see properties values going down. And so by you sitting on the sidelines, you're really hurting your ability to capitalize on one of our greatest abilities to invest is appreciation. So next, I'll talk about, your work, the leverage, master debt, and repeat, right? So kind of talking about that. If you're going to work, you want to use that to leverage, meaning to get access to money. And then you master that debt, because there's good debt and bad debt. And the good debt's tied to asset, bad debt is revolving, right? Tied to things you don't need and that depreciate. So with real estate, obviously the goal is for it to appreciate. But as you use your ability to borrow, you can leverage and do that over and over and over again. And so, like I mentioned, that was just one property. Just think if you would have bought 5 properties then. So you're talking about 500,000 now that if you want, that you can pull out. And then again, I didn't even talk about lines of credit against your properties, but that gives you the ability to change the outlook of your financial health, right? So then you can build a portfolio, and now you look a lot different to financial institutions, and you have a strategy to transition from your 9 to 5. So the next thing is your education. So you need to learn the exit strategy. So I'm always a big proponent of learning, how finance works, how to get involved with different businesses. You should always be cultivating your knowledge. So the two things we do is money and management, right? You have to get really good at money, and the other thing is managing those processes. So as we talk about this, and I mentioned before, 65% of the Americans live paycheck to paycheck. Why is that? Well, one, they're focused on the labor and not the actual money. So they just take that to survive. So if you really flip the script and focus on money and leveraging, you shouldn't be working as long, right? Or having to rely so much on your work. Never forget, my dad always told me, not that, labor jobs are bad or anything like that. Anyone who works, I have high respect for. But he always said, Joe, he goes, strong backs are for weak minds. And so, you want to get an education and learn how to use your mind. And so that's the thing is get educated. Once you find a system that works using assets, then you repeat the process. Also, credit. We're not really taught, growing up in secondary education about credit or financial acumen. I think that's a travesty. Credit is pretty much the DNA of your financial portfolio, right? Because if you have to leverage, the one thing you and your businesses need is the ability for people to say, hey, Joe or myself, we pay money, we pay our bills, and then we'll pay you back if we do loan it to you. So, you have to have the ability to keep your credit worthiness high. So institutional banks look at you as an asset as well. And they'll issue you and fund you when you need that for your projects. What it does is it gives you access to cheaper funds. And then again, when the BRRRR process, it's buy. So if you have to buy something, that means you need access to funds. Rehab, that means you need access to rehab money. So you're renovating, the whatever property you might buy. Then rent, which means then you have to manage the ability for tenants to actually get into your property and then manage the cash flow. And then refi. So refinance means you need to have the credit worthiness and the business savvy to be able to refinance. So credit is really important. A lot of people think about credit and the ability to go and get a credit card, maybe for revolving credit, but really and truly, credit in our terms is the ability to leverage. And so leveraging is so important in our business. So your credit is your real estate DNA, in my opinion. And then money, you need to have relationships with hard money, institutional money, and gap money. Hard money is for your immediate buy, but hard money comes with a higher price tag, meaning you're paying a higher interest rate and there's a shorter term. But there's a reason why that exists, because when you see a property, you should be able to, have the experience to know that it's a really good opportunity. Buy it. If you're going to rehab it, do that quickly, and then be able to refinance it into a long-term note, right? So again, you need to have the credit to do that. But additionally, you need to have the knowledge to have access to those funds. So hard money's for the immediate buy. Institutional banks are for long-term strategies, usually rentals. You can do owner finance with wraps. But when you're doing an owner finance, you need to have a lower interest rate, and you're going to wrap around with a higher interest rate and create that arbitrage. So that's why the last bullet is leverage rates to arbitrage, meaning the spread. Really, that just means spread, right? So you want a bigger spread in your interest rate. So if I'm getting a 5% interest rate, I want to be able to sell it to someone for a 9.5% interest rate, right? And there's a 4.5% difference, which that's what I'm receiving as cash flow. So again, though, if you can get cheaper money, that helps you to create a higher spread, which will inevitably give you more money. So additionally, there's gap funding. So we talked about hard money and institutional money, but gap funding is the money that you need for a down payment, for rehab money, but typically it's for the down payment. So institutional banks will loan on what's called loan to value. So let's say it's 75% loan to value. If your property that you're wanting to buy is 100,000, well, the bank will then loan you, in this example, 75,000. So you'll see there's a $25,000 gap. Well, there's individuals out there that'll loan you the 25,000. Again, it'll be at a higher interest rate, but then you have 100% financing. So you'll have a first lien, which is the 75%. Second lien is the 25%, and then you're in it for 100%. So, which is can be a really good deal, and for you, because then you can leverage and do it again and again and again. So at our real estate investment group, again, I'll put that up, DallasRIG.com. We have all of those types of lenders, and actually our first meeting is going to be on the 20th of January, our kickoff, and the topic is going to be money. And so we're going to have all of our friends that actually our experts at Money and Lend Money, they will be highlighted at the kickoff. And we're going to have food. We're going to have a good time. We'll have a headline speaker. So I'm really excited about that. Then the last thing is I want to talk about is management. So the two things I always say we do is money and management. So the management is the portfolio. So your goal, like I said, by not sitting on the sidelines, is if I say it's a race to 10. So if you do get 10, how are you going to manage those if they are rentals? Either you're going to be a property manager or you're going to hire a property manager. And then you've got to manage the finances that go along with that so that you can leverage those rentals. Then if you're going to do flips, if you're going to do fix and flip, then are you going to be the general contractor or are you going to hire a general contractor? So both of those processes have to be managed, which we have that process in an opportunity circle you can get involved in. And then rentals as well. Again, you're either going to be able to manage those yourself, but I think after 5 properties, you should think about hiring a property manager. But you still have to manage the manager regardless of who's managing it. So you're always going to be managing it once you have a portfolio. So once you do that, though, you can see in a short amount of time. So we take, like I told you, 2010. And if I were, I did, but if you were to have bought 10 properties in the DFW area, conservatively, they've appreciated $100,000. So, quickly you can see that that's $1 million in appreciation, right? And your ability to leverage. So by not sitting on the sidelines and just taking advantage of timing and appreciation, you were able to grow your wealth. And if you're working and you didn't take advantage of that, yes, you might have gotten promotions, but invariably, like I said, money's like water. It finds its level. So you probably have a bigger house, more cars, maybe more kids. So your bank account might not look like you wanted it to. But let's say you had 10 properties during that time frame and you wanted to just sell one of those, that's $100,000 that now puts you in a whole different situation. So again, in 2024, where our economy is somewhat stalled and the real estate market, because of the high interest rates, a lot of people are staying in their low interest rate homes that they bought, in years past. So the inventory is not as high. So it's slowed down a bit. But as interest rates go down and inventory starts to go up, you're going to start seeing those price points go down. And then here we are again, right? So you don't want to sit on the sidelines. So hopefully you'll take some of this advice. In 2024, we're going to have a lot of programs at the Dallas Real Estate Investment Group for you to get involved in, to learn all these strategies. I do have access to not only money, but also people that can help you with your credit. And then we do have the educational programs for you to get involved in. So can't wait to see you. And I would want to see you off of the sidelines and working all these exit strategies that you're going to learn. So I will talk to you next time.